Hello, my name is Kelsey Smith, and I have put together this presentation, Working Brains for Better Learning, in order to share the benefits of authentic learning, discussions, and the use of patterns in teaching. It is important that teachers realize that passive learning does not exist. Students must be involved in their education in order to retain information. While there are aspects of teaching, such as lecture, which are important for learning, the way in which they are used has a great impact on whether or not students will learn. Neuroscience research has shown that there are various indicators that learning should not be teacher-centered, whether in overcoming dyslexia or learning languages. While there are various fads that appear in the news about what you can do to make your brain smarter and how to improve cognition, not all are correct. However, there are various cognitive enhancements, such as behaviors or nutrients, which will cause the brain to form more neurons and more neuron connections. This is especially significant in the hippocampus, which is the area of the brain largely associated with long-term memory. Research has shown that neuroplasticity is an important part of promoting learning. Neuroplasticity, or the ability of neurons to change and grow, creates more connections within the brain, thus making those who try to learn smarter. While many popular brain exercises, such as crosswords, only help in making the brain better at that particular skill, there are various exercises or stimulants which augment memory capacity, the ability to reason, and the rate at which one processes information. It may seem popular to throw a variety of different subjects and different tasks at students, but this can slow down their learning as their brain tries to focus on a variety of different processes instead of paying attention to one. Learning only occurs when information is retained, meaning that information must be provided to students in a variety of ways that make them think, not cram, in order to form the neural networks necessary to maintain and reuse that material. In this presentation, we will look at how authentic learning, discussions, and patterns can aid in creating these neural networks and making teaching more effective. Learning should occur in a way in which students are connected to the world, not in which they are passively drilled with information. And students need to be responsible for their education. Through authentic learning and authentic assessment, students and others can see their progress and their achievements and feel proud of their success. Activities such as Palestine, the Game, in which students act as journalists in the Israel-Palestine conflict, or Model United Nations, where students represent different countries and debate and decide on important global proposals, allow students to be more involved in real-world scenarios and collaborate in order to gain a more concrete understanding of the subject. While students must maintain an understanding of different concepts from class, such as math and science, it is important that they recognize that they need to be able to think critically and communicate effectively. Without the ability to solve problems or connect with others, students cannot apply their knowledge. Authentic learning is a challenge, which is what makes it rewarding. Studies have shown that information that is gained too easily, without any effort, can have negative emotional impacts. The reward of overcoming a challenge makes learning more influential. Authentic learning should be based on the real world, in which students can apply their knowledge beyond the classroom. Students should be able to take control of how they learn, based on how they learn best. Teachers should act as mentors, not as lecturers, and should allow students to work together on meaningful projects. By acting as the facilitator, not as the lecturer, and allowing students to share their ideas with one another, students will have more opportunities to learn the subject and learn from experience. It is important that teachers not only plan for their classes accordingly, but that they follow through with the set learning outcomes and give students appropriate feedback that they can then use as a learning guide. The role of a facilitator is a spiral, and teachers and students should always be developing plans, growing from them, and making them better. Students should become more active in their learning, and the use of discussion is the perfect gateway. the Department of Education found in 2001 that many students had not participated in significant discussion in the classroom. Students often see discussion as an excuse to not participate and a way to lose individuality and recognition. They may become withdrawn and become social loafers, or they may begin to worry about how they will be assessed based on their group's performance. Students need to learn the importance of discussion, and it needs to be implemented in classrooms. It allows students the opportunity to work in a social situation, such as those they will experience in their workplaces, and learn how to make their voice heard, in addition to how to attentively listen to others. Students develop their critical thinking skills, brainstorming skills, and the ability to politely but effectively challenge others' ideas. Discussions can be guided by the teacher, debates, or even through role play done by the students. At the conclusion of discussions, students should reflect on what they have learned. Terry Doyle, an expert on learner-centered teaching, suggests that students be tested on discussion material just as if they were being tested on lecture material, and that grades should be assigned to students based on their level of participation, both in how many times they participate and the depth of their contributions. Before discussions can be used, the way in which they can be best used in the classroom must be established. Doyle introduces several steps for properly implementing discussion. Students should meet in small groups and discuss their future discussions. What has happened in their worst discussions, or their best discussions? How do people behave in discussions, and what was discussed? If students share, compile, and vote on these thoughts, it will create a more effective way for the teacher to facilitate discussions that are meaningful and useful for students. While it is important for students to learn the importance of discussion, they need to be able to get up in front of their peers and express their ideas. It is true that discussions provide the skills needed for the workplace. In the workplace, though, discussions are often not held in a group of desks. They are held in briefings or meetings. Students should develop the skills they need to get up in front of their peers and clearly express their opinions and thoughts. Patterns exist in varying fashions in our day-to-day lives and can be an effective way for students to organize and understand information. Patterns have already been shown through research to be a means of making connections in the brain and are useful tools for teaching and learning. In the past, learning has occurred linearly, with progressions from one subject to the next. However, students should be taught to recognize and use their own patterns in their learning. Many students either don't use patterns or only use what teachers give them. Others can use methods such as note cards or outlines. Students should be given the skills to create and use the patterns which work best for them, thereby increasing their learning through a method which works best for them, such as comparison methods to remember information, whether in finding similarities and differences between objects or looking at cause and effect. For example, students can organize their knowledge hierarchically, alphabetize it, or organize it in note cards or outlines. Terry Doyle gives several examples of how to help students recognize patterns. The brain likes to chunk information and categorize it so that it makes sense. The first step in teaching students about using patterns is to let them make patterns. By giving them a list of objects and asking them to organize it, students have the option to make patterns in ways that suit them, from alphabetizing to sorting by type to looking at color repetitions. No matter the method, students who are given the opportunity to recognize their pattern-making tendencies will be more likely to remember them and implement them in future learning. Students are the ones doing the learning, so it is important that they understand how working and participating in authentic learning, discussions, and patterns can affect the quality of their education. The majority of the information from this presentation is from Terry Doyle's book, Learner-Centered Teaching, for those who are interested in learning more. If you would like more information on this presentation, please contact me by commenting on the video. For more information, please see Terry Doyle's book, Learner-Centered Teaching, in addition to these additional resources. Thank you for your attention.